What kind of firm do you want? Did you have any concept of the firm you wanted, the nature of the firm you wanted when you entered practice? Most of us don't. Most of us just open the door and start practicing and hope that we get rich, that we develop into a very large law firm, that we have great success. Many of us do. Some don't. But it seems to me that it helps to understand the business model that we do have, and perhaps even the business model that we would like to have or get into. Now, one of the problems here, I think, is actually defining the term, business model. I remember that when I first went into business, the concept of a business model was, do you have a specialty house or do you have a general practice? Do you have a general product or general service type of practice? And that's what we meant by business model. I think in today's world, particularly with law firms, we have a different concept, or at least a broader definition of that terminology. Today, we can be a big firm, or we can be a regional firm, or we can be a small firm, or we can be a sole practitioner. I think this is a business model definition, and you may go through the ranks, starting from sole to small to regional and then big. On the other hand, you might just start with something in the middle. Another definition, if you will, for business model is, are you a boutique law firm or a full-service law firm? It used to be a few years ago that the phraseology used was specialize or die. In other words, you had to be a boutique firm. You had to be a family law firm, a bankruptcy law firm, depending on the practice area, you name it. But that's what you were. If you were a general law firm, then you were a general practitioner, and everybody knows that general practitioners earn less and are more susceptible to burnout. Well, I say everybody knows, but that's not true. In today's world, the general practitioner may just have the better. Other than bankruptcy, which today is growing by leaps and bounds, and unfortunately so, the boutique law firm may be suffering. Certainly several of my clients are. And so being general or broadening your scope or incorporating additional practice areas may be the key to thriving in the new economy. Again, this is one format of the business model. A billing approach has also been used in terms of understanding the business model. In other words, are you strictly billing by the hour? Are you a contingency law firm? Whether it be debt collection or personal injury or some other practice area that basically uses contingency and success as the guideline for compensation. Do you provide a flat fee? Do you provide a fixed fee for your clientele? Or do you provide value billing, meaning that your billing rates is determined in part by what the value that you provide to your client? And in this case, the value, generally speaking, is determined by the client. Another aspect or approach to the business model is compensation. Are you an eat what you kill kind of a law firm? In other words, are you entrepreneurial? And if you don't bring in that client and that book of business, you don't get compensated. But if you do, that's the basis of your compensation. Or are you a team law firm? Team-based compensation or collaborative, however you want to phrase that. In other words, are you rewarded based on the success of your team, whether that team be a practice area within a law firm or the law firm itself? Are you lockstep, meaning that depending on the year or the number of years you've been in practice, you get X number of dollars? Or your compensation is based on whether you're an associate or a partner or some other criterion, but it's lockstep? Or, as in the case of many law firms today, Are you moving toward, or are you already there, a merit-based law firm? In other words, somebody is evaluating subjectively the merits of your skills, and based on that, your compensation is determined. In today's world, there's another model, and that's what's called the virtual law firm. We've talked about the virtual law firm before, where the lawyer essentially works out of his house and may have an office that he travels to from time to time, or may rent space for periodic office conferences, for example, for $100 a month or something of that nature. But the bulk of the law practice is done at the house, saving occupancy costs. And this is a great model when you don't have to see the client, or don't have to see the client very often. Having said that, what I want to come back to something I said in another context, and that is, you can have a virtual law firm, but you cannot be a virtual lawyer. Your clients must have frequent contact with you, that is, if you want to keep them for any period of time. There's another model that's been discussed by Richard Susskind and others that comes about in today's activity, and it's called client-centric, meaning that the whole focus of the practice of law is on the needs of the client, whatever that may be, and however the client wants to receive their communication. You're focusing on the client, client-centric. Now, it seems to me that we've talked about client service in the past, and I'm not sure there's a lot of difference, if any difference, between client service and client-centric. But I just want to raise this issue. When you speak about business models, many people will start using the framework or the terminology client-centric. And I think what this really means, and all it really means, is serving the client, client's interest, and understanding what the client wants, what the client needs, and then providing that to them. Know your business model, because that will impact the various tactics you use to promote your law firm. But also, to the extent that you may want to change your business model, knowing what these aspects are, what these tactics are, what the terminology is, will enable you to make that change more successfully. Thanks for joining us today.